The number of families who have homeschooled has doubled during the pandemic era. Every cloud does indeed have its silver lining. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. As you can see, I'm chilling with my magnificent Freedom Tumbler, and you should too. Just imagine, to hold one of these in your hands is to have a little bit of Duke over in your living room. And who doesn't really need that, right? Who doesn't really need a little bit of me to brighten your day? Just head over to patriotclub.us, that's patriotclub.us, to get yours. And that, by doing so, you are also supporting the show. We appreciate each and every Pat Riot member for keeping this show going. And remember, we'll set aside 1 penny of every $99 you donate to teach Pat Riot how to correctly read English language. That itself is a commitment to charitable endeavor. All right, coming up later in the show, our international correspondent Alex Newman joins us to discuss the unprecedented spike in homeschooling across the nation. But first, we turn it over to Katie with a look at the waning health of our republic.
What just happened? Team, that presidential debate was a bleep show if I've ever seen one. And if you didn't watch that screechy old man fight, then hold on to your butts for the lowest of lowlights of the Trump-Biden so-called debate. I have them all. Finally, it's debate season, and it's not just the Democrats on stage waxing and waning each other's backs, which was a gross sight to see. But then the debate between Trump and Biden actually happened, and it was even grosser. The questionably dead Joe Biden came out of his bunker to square off against the big orange President Trump on the debate stage. And it wasn't the fight we were promised more than 1 year ago.
I said, come on, Donald. Come on, man. How many push-ups you want to do here, pal? You know, right. I mean, jokingly. You know, come on, run with me, man.
For the record, Biden did not issue the challenge, but Trump did poke and prod him.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's poke. Steady. Steady. Okay, a little higher. Careful of the angle. Okay. We're approaching the window. Thread the needle. Thread the needle.
He's alive! He's alive! And yet we're still poking him.
Overall, what we got was an old man fight that no one asked for, but we were all tortured with.
Will he just shush for a minute?
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer.
By the way,
Chuck.
Deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
Your lunch. Down 18%. China ate your lunch, Joe.
Are you crazy?
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
come
Joe,
on. And he sits on his golf course and literally think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
You broke my nose.
I didn't break your damn nose.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did is
You're done in this segment.
He called
Mr.
the military
Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said stupid bastards.
Please.
He said play it, so...
And 2, I appointed Johnson to the academy. I just want you to know that. Just clap for that, you stupid bastard.
We could honestly be here for an hour and a half showing examples, but then I might as well show you the debate in its entirety because that is what we got for an hour and a half. Fox's Chris Wallace served as moderator to the circus, and well, he failed miserably at his job.
Don't make me have to separate you two again. Damn it! Now go to your shanties, all of you. You're scaring the fish away. Damn kids.
We will see if any of the antics scare the voters away, but Mr. Gustafson did a better job breaking up that fight than anything Chris Wallace was doing.
I have to give you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the Vice President talk.
Good.
Let's try to be serious about it. The answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion,
sir,
and we will protect
Mr.
people.
President, I'm the moderator of this debate.
And
if you want to switch seats,
Chris,
you're
that was
debating
the worst
him, not
part of
me.
Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well,
President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half.
Chris Wallace said President Trump was debating Biden, but was he just debating Biden? Because even Wallace's colleagues saw the blatant bias in favor of Biden and the tag team up against Trump.
Well, then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Chris, we get it. You're voting for Biden. All of the chaos that was about to unfold was seen from minute one, leaving the audience to wonder for the next 90 minutes, what's the point of having a debate? You tell me in the comments below. Let me know if you watched the debate and if you even considered it to be a debate. And if any of you say yes, then you were not watching the same thing I was. Here's my official summary of the debate.
Loud noises! I'm in a glass case of emotion!
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Guys!
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
So many movie clips popped into my head throughout the entire debate. My mind was a movie Rolodex, I tell ya. Anywho, none of it matters. We knew going into the debate that no one's minds would be changed, and even more so, after it was over, the best clip of all came from Billy Madison. It just kept playing over and over in my mind.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yes, I know I've used this clip before, and sadly, I'll probably use it again for the next two debates between Trump and Biden. I wish it wasn't the case, but wisdom tells me otherwise.
Well, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other, and see which gets filled first.
Realistically, the script was already written before the debate began. Every newspaper already had its headlines written weeks ago and the story notes completed. That's why no one even questioned the ethicality of the Washington Post editorial board endorsing Joe Biden the day before the first debate. They claim that Biden will restore decency, honor, and competence to America's government. And yet this is what Joe Biden actually did at the debate.
Absolutely agree.
Folks, do you have any idea what this clown's doing?
They call it left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen,
Keep yapping, man.
The workers are prohibited.
He's the racist. He's Putin's puppy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he
booming.
Blew it. He blew it.
And then on top of it, the Washington Post, on the same day as the endorsement, released the story about the most excellent scrambled eggs. So in fact, the Post wrote two stories on Joe Biden that day. And now they'll all be praising Joe for his performance and how he gets the American people, because he wants to connect with you, America.
The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? You folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? People out there need help. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. What you need, you, the American people, it's about you.
Now on to the actual highlights from the debate. Okay, yes, there weren't any real highlights, just low lights. But the closest thing to informative or telling moments, for better or for worse, were these.
Simply
your party doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
Socialist
right
healthcare.
Now, I am
and
the
they're going to dominate
Party.
you, Joe. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? The people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
Vote now.
You're going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're
to answer
senator.
the question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the question is the question is
Justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
malicious. Masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters. I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick.
I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
Fun little tidbit of information for those of you still watching this video. The campaigns had trouble coming to agreements about protocol at the debate. A shocker, I know. So the requests made from both parties were rejected by the other, as predicted from a mile away. To be fair, the requests made were kind of like the riders for celebrities that include insane demands no ordinary person would make. For example, Barbra Streisand's rider says that no one can wear t-shirts in her presence.
When something's right for me, I do it, and this is right for me.
So the Biden camp requested that a break is given every 30 minutes of the debate. Mind you, the debate was scheduled to be 90 whole minutes. I think we can all agree the entire thing should have ended after 30 minutes.
Hell to the yeah.
Then the Trump campaign requested that each old man's ears get checked by a third party to see if there is an electronic device or transmitter. What a shocker that Biden didn't agree to that one.
I am shooketh.
Again, this was debate number 1 of supposedly 3. We learned nothing, no one's minds were changed, and we are all dumber for having listened to it. May God indeed have mercy on all of our souls. Until next time, stay healthy, America.
Joined now by our international correspondent, Alex Newman. Alex, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, all the anecdotal evidence seems to have been underscored now by a couple of new surveys that suggest that there are twice as many homeschoolers than there were before COVID. Talk about the data.
This is incredibly amazing news, Duke. Yeah, so this new Gallup poll that was released actually at the end of August, but nobody noticed it because the media didn't report on it. But what it shows is that the number of homeschool families in America has now doubled. It went from 1 in 20 families in the United States who were educating their children at home. Now we're at 1 out of 10 families. So we've gone from 5% of the families with school-age children homeschooling to fully 10% of families with school-age children homeschooling. That is incredible. And actually, one of the important points here is that probably understates the increase in the homeschooling community, because families that are homeschooling tend to be larger families, more conservative families. They might have, instead of 2 or 3 children, they might have 4 or 5 children. So this is an enormous growth in homeschooling, and it happened in a period of about 6 months. Just in the wake of COVID. So.
And Alex, at Freedom Project here, between the students that reached out to us and the students that we talked to, even if we didn't ultimately admit them, we more than doubled the kind of interest we've had. We've got a huge number of students in our school now for the first time, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more than we had last year, primarily because of COVID. And we ended up turning away because they came to us late in the year, another 300 or 400 we could potentially have taken. So it seems real. And the one thing it seems, here's the question though, how much of this is parents don't like online learning as done by the public schools? They do a sadly half-assed version of it. They're not good at it. These public schools are not geared for online learning, and I'll tell you why. Because online learning is more transparent. Anybody can be watching you. You got to be very careful about minding your P's and Q's. They're used to these public schools of closing the door and carrying through the sociological and psychological nonsense of a modern public school. But now that they know they're being watched, they can't. So they're not effective online because what they mainly do, the indoctrination stuff, doesn't fly there. So how much of this, though, is parents who recognize that you're not going to get a good online education? If the doors of these public schools were open tomorrow or had opened in August, how many of these people would still be with us, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a big factor, Duke. It is. There's also, I think, several other elements at work here, too. One of it is parents, in many cases, for the first time, are seeing what their children are being exposed to. It's been, a big deal now for a lot of parents. They're looking over their child's shoulder and they're seeing, LGBT lessons, and you got white privilege, you need to repent, and America is evil. They're thinking, what in the world? This isn't what my children need. Then there's another factor, and that is that a lot of people have lost their jobs. Something like 50 million Americans have lost their jobs. And so maybe mom's at home, maybe dad's at home all day anyway. Maybe they're working remotely because of the nature of their job. And they're thinking, wait a minute, why should I let the government indoctrinate my child with terrible educational standards and fake history and phony science and radical progressive values when I'm already home anyway? I might as well just do the homeschooling. I do real homeschooling myself. So I think there's several things at work here, Duke, but I think one thing is very clear. The trajectory is for homeschooling to continue exploding. I think as the semester goes on with these insane restrictions, they got everybody wearing face diapers, sitting in bubbles and social distancing. I think more and more parents are going to wake up and say, wait a minute, this is not for us. This is not for our family. We're not going to do it anymore, and we're going to homeschool. And I think that's incredibly good news for America, for our children. That's very good news. But we know the education establishment is not going to take kindly to it. They're going to fight back, and so we need to be prepared for that.
Well, one of the things we should keep our eyes on, the more public school becomes popular, the more you're going to see what we were beginning to see in the midst of COVID, right? With these Harvard conferences on should homeschooling be regulated, with some of these professors arguing that maybe we shouldn't allow people to homeschool, that homeschool, we have an interesting case with Amy Coney Barrett, the new traditional Catholic, a woman who's been nominated for the Supreme Court. She is a woman of the church. She's a woman of God. She's adopted children. And you look at how the left is attacking her as if she is some kind of fringe lunatic for taking faith seriously, and her commitments to help suffering people, adopting babies from third world countries who happen to not be white. The flack she's getting for that shows you just where the bureaucrats are, right? Homeschool now is more dangerous than it's ever been. This mass exodus, like you mentioned, it did show that the emperor had no clothes. It did show that parents were willing to make a move if necessary. What do you think, and after the break I want to ask you this question, what do you think the public schools' next move is, given the success of homeschooling so far? Back with Alex Newman, our international correspondent. And Alex, I just posed that question to you. The success of homeschooling, the benefits of homeschooling, is an existential threat to the public school status quo. What do you envision happening as public schools continue to grow? Where's that other foot going to fall?
Yeah, you brought up the emperor having no clothes, Duke, and I think that is a perfect analogy for what we're going to be seeing here. The establishment, the educational establishment, the National Education Association, the U.S. Department of Education, the Bill Gates funded front groups, AstroTurf organizations, they all recognize that the homeschooling movement poses an existential threat to the government school system, because it shows that for less than 1/20th of the cost, for far less hours, a parent with no qualifications, no teaching certificate, no 4-year degree from some garbage state university can educate their children far better than a government school teacher. It exposes the whole lie of public schools, that you need, $20,000 a year and highly trained specialists and experts in this and experts in that and Common Core standards and all that. It exposes the whole thing as a giant fraud. So they are going to do everything and anything possible to bring it down. And they've always hated homeschooling. I mean, the National Education Association seems like every time they get together, they pass a resolution condemning homeschooling, and parents don't have the qualifications and there's not enough extracurricular, all the same garbage they always come with. As you mentioned, this proposed Harvard conference that had to shut down, ironically, because of COVID. They're telling us what they're going to do. They want to shut down and prohibit home education in America and around the world. That's going to be their next move. They might not come out of the closet and just say it in those terms. Oh, we just want more regulation. We just want to make sure there's accountability. We just want to make sure wacky Christian parents aren't teaching their kids whatever they feel like it. And that'll be the camel's nose under the tent until that whole smelly, disgusting animal can get in there and tear apart homeschool families. That's where they're going with this.
Yeah, I want to take something you said a moment ago and qualify a little bit. Of course, parents are qualified to teach their kids. Their moms, their dads, they know these kids. They can teach kids the historical narrative of our country. They can teach our kids certainly math through the high school level. Our parents are perfectly qualified. What they're not is accredited. They don't have these bogus accreditations from tens of thousands of dollars worth of fees paid to big public atheist schools. So our parents are perfectly qualified. We don't need that accreditation. And I know, and it's true with Freedom Project. We go out of our way at Freedom Project to hire non-accredited public school teachers, hire retired accountants to teach math and business. You don't need that stuff that gets in the way. But you brought up something else really huge, Alex, that I think is this camel's nose under the tent. It's this idea, right, that we can't let go of our monopoly at the public schools. We're going to have to find ways to push back. I say this. they have no leg to stand on. Not as if they were educating our kids at a high level, if our kids were graduating from these indoctrination programs with high SAT, ACT scores, that they were highly literate in math and reading, we wouldn't have a whole lot of complaining to do. But the minute they come after us and say, hey, you may not be giving your kids queer theory education, you're not teaching kids about global warming, we now have the authority to say, we are teaching kids math and reading and science. You wouldn't do it. You chose a political curriculum. You chose a highly progressive curriculum that was big on inappropriate sex, big on all kinds of Black Lives Matter garbage, 1619 lying garbage history. You chose that, and you still couldn't educate our kids. We cannot possibly do worse than you.
That's exactly right. And the data is very clear on this. You can go over to the National Home Education Research Institute, NHERI.org, and you can see the data. Homeschoolers, on average, perform leaps and bounds better than the victims of the government indoctrination centers on every metric, including the ones that the public schools claim to be so strong in, like socialization. In fact, homeschoolers are better socialized on everything that we can measure. They do better as adults. They get better jobs. They interact better with people of all ages. They communicate better. So it's a big fraud. But, to continue with this, the boy who pointed out that the emperor had no clothes, I think that's what they're really terrified of, Duke. If they can indoctrinate 100% of the children, there's no risk that somebody's going to come along and point out that gender theory and the Black Lives Matter 1619 project and all this idiocy in the public schools is phony, fraudulent, ridiculous, and stupid. But as long as there are people educated outside of the system who can speak well, who can think on their feet, who have an understanding of real history, who know how to use logic and reason and evidence, and who know how to go and find useful information to build up their arguments, there's always a risk that the whole house of cards will come falling down, that one homeschool child will stand up in front of everybody and say, wait a minute, the emperor is completely naked, and then suddenly all the brainwashed zombies will look and say, oh my goodness, he really is naked. And that's what they fear. That's what terrifies them. It's what keeps them up at night. That is why we need to fight so hard for educational freedom.
According to Gallup, we have twice as many kids to work with. We have to make sure we prioritize all those kids, those homeschool kids, to show parents it can be done. You just did it, and let's keep growing those numbers. Alex, thanks for your time today.
I'm back, and it's time now for some real education. Dover Beach, written in 1867, is a lyric poem by the English poet Matthew Arnold, who was born in 1822 and died in 1888. It was first published in the collection New Poems. The title, locale, and subject of the poem's descriptive opening lines are the shore of the English ferry port of Dover in Kent, facing Calais in France. This is the narrowest part of the English Channel, where Arnold honeymooned in 1851. Many of the beaches in this part of England are made up of small stones or pebbles rather than sand, and Arnold describes the sea ebbing over the stones as a grating roar.
And I think that grating roar of this poem is at that narrowest point between England and France. I think this is, among other things, an acknowledgement on the part of Matthew Arnold how chaotic and unfamiliar the world had become. We had survived into this late period, 1867, into the Victorian period. We've gotten Darwin now. We've gotten Marx now. Freud is there, is looming. All of these radical ways of revising what we thought we knew as human beings for thousands of years. All of that security of God in his heaven and human beings being made in the image of God. All of the crashing inconsistencies, roaring inconsistencies of the new modernist understanding of the world, with global wars as opposed to local battles. Remember when the Middle Ages was dominated by battles between England and France across that tiny channel? And now we're entering the era of global battles with England's wide-flung empire from India all the way to the Pacific, across the Pacific. This poem, I think, is a paean to this utterly upsetting, completely dismogrifying new shift in moving away from local to the global and everything that happens. The poem begins, "The sea is calm tonight." Right? Maybe for finally, right? "The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full, the moon lies fair upon the straits, on the French coast. The light gleams and is gone, I can see it still. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen! You hear the grating roar of pebbles, which the waves draw back and fling at their return upon the high strand. Begin and cease, and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Skip a stanza, go to the sea of faith. Faith is waning, right? That long, familiar sea of faith is beginning to give way to the Darwinian new way of seeing things. The sea of faith was once two at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy long withdrawing war. The tide of faith is roaring out again, away, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Ah, love, let us be true to one another. It's all we have left. For the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor love nor light, nor certitude nor peace, nor help for pain, and we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. That's the payoff, that beautiful last line, where ignorant armies clash by night. We're only a generation away from World War I and the loss of almost an entire generation of European maleness, masculinity, lost to a brutal war where insane, insecure armies clash by night.
All right, as always, if you're a fan of the show, please consider a one-time tax-deductible donation of $99 toward our Patriot Club. As a thank you, we'll ship this impressive stainless steel tumbler etched with the words, "Freedom never tasted so good." So visit patriotclub.us to sign up now. That's patriotclub.us. And remember, you will be helping us keep this show going. Now we're going to wrap things up with the fun fact of the day. When America watched the very first presidential debate between Kennedy and Nixon, more than 66.4 million viewers watched, which equated to 1 in 3 Americans. And I am 100% confident that at least that many people got drunk during the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden due to one of the many, many drinking games that they have out there for these debates.
It was like two old men without teeth wrestling in oatmeal in their Speedos. That's what that's the image I take away from that debate. And by the way, these are stainless. Did Katie mention these are stainless steel? I defy you to stain these. In fact, if you can succeed in staining them, we will refund your money. And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Duke, she's Katie. Until next time, stay stainless, my friends.